If we have peace on earth, our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. Our loyalties must transcend our race, our tribe, our class, and our nation. And this means we must develop a world perspective. That quote, written by Martin Luther King Jr., a man of integrity, change, and courage. His purpose? To save the Black community from the second-class citizen lifestyle. This quote is to show how race and diversity in the United States was and is a good thing. What does "we must develop a world perspective" mean? Well, if you think about it, King was trying to say that even though all our races may be different, we need to see the world for what it is. It's not made up of just one race, because it's full of diversity. And America is a perfect example. If King had not changed America, I wouldn't be giving this speech to you today. This quote is truly patriotic because America was founded on race, and not everyone was from the same place. Every race may be different, but we are all human beings living and breathing on this place that we all call Earth. To this day, America is one big melting pot, mixed up of all races. Have you ever heard of the Ku Klux Klan? It began in the mid-60s. During the time of segregation, a group of people would burn blacks' property because they believed that they carried diseases and were possessed. Unfortunately, people like this still exist today. But there are more good things to America than there are bad. If you look at the words, our loyalties must transcend our race, our tribe, our class, and our nation. It means that even in the most negative times, our race triumphs. For example, Rosa Parks. She was an African American sitting in the black section of a bus, but she was denied that right by a white American who could not find anywhere else to sit in the white section. So he told her to get up, but she refused. But she's not the only one to stand up for freedom. Martin Luther King Jr., he was the leader of the African American civil rights movement, and he wrote the speech, "I have a dream." If we have peace on earth, our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. Our race, our tribe, our class, and our nation. And this means we must develop a world perspective. King must have written this quote for freedom and inspiration. This quote was written in a time when African Americans wanted equality. Today, America is not just free for African Americans, but for some races as well. But there is still a long road ahead of us. Those words, our loyalties, must become ecumenical rather than sectional, meaning our actions must have meaning. Altogether, because of King's actions, America is what it is today. This quote doesn't just impact my life, but other families as well. Because there was a time when races couldn't even stand in the same room with each other. Every continent has a race, but none like America, where it isn't just Caucasians, African Americans, or Hispanic. And I believe that's what has impacted all of us today. America has no race. It's where the corners of the earth meet in one place. But I can't just say it. This quote needs evidence, because it's from the skyscrapers in New York City, to the beaches in Miami, to the Cowboy State in Tennessee, and Temple Square in Salt Lake City, Utah, and right here in Arizona. Everywhere, there is diversity. You just have to look to find it. Thank you.
These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Hello, judges, parents, and fellow contestants. I'm Jacklynn Haughn, and this quote stated by Thomas Paine reminds me about all the veterans and soldiers fighting for our country. Right now, I can think of men and women who have either fought for our country and survived, are fighting for our country at this very moment, and who are in the service and sadly died. Who do you think about when you hear the words veteran or soldier? Probably think about a family member, famous patriot, or even yourself. But I think about Pat Tillman, my grandpa, and Abraham Lincoln. Pat Tillman was in the Army and fought in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. My grandpa was a Marine and fought in the Vietnam War. Finally, Abraham Lincoln was not only our 16th president, but a soldier at heart. These three people, to me, are true patriots because they risked their lives to fight for our country. Pat Tillman was the safety position for the Arizona Cardinals, but in June 2002, he decided to join the Army because of the September 11th attacks. He was first deployed into Iraq to help find the people that caused the attacks. Shortly after being deployed in Iraq, he was yet again redeployed into Afghanistan. Sadly, on April 22nd, 2004, at the age of 27, Pat Tillman was killed in action. Pat received 14 medals in his honor, including the Purple Heart. The Pat Tillman Foundation was created to carry forward the view of his legacy. As you can see, Pat Tillman is a real patriot because he was willing to have his life taken for us. Another person I think is patriotic is my grandpa. My grandpa fought in the Vietnam War as a gunner inside of the helicopters. He was gunned down 3 times, but luckily, each time he was rescued. When he was firing at the enemies, he used to sit in his helmet so that he would be more protected. He won many medals, but the most important medal was the Air Crew Member Medal. For those of you who don't know what medal that is, it's for when you complete 100 missions that the enemy has shot at you. He was gone for many months. At that time, my grandma was stuck at home worrying about him and taking care of my uncle. What does a veteran mean to you? To me, it means someone who has fought through a terrible war and still stands today. Abraham Lincoln is yet another great patriot for our country. During his time in office, several things were happening around the country. One of them was the Civil War. In the Civil War, Abe was the head general of all of the Union. Also during his presidency, a lot of the states were seceding from the U.S., 11 states in all. In April 1865, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. He was killed while watching a play at the Ford's Theater. John Wilkes Booth was later found inside of a barn, shot, and killed. Abraham Lincoln is a proud American and a soldier. Pat Tillman was in the Army and fought in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. My grandpa was a Marine and fought in the Vietnam War. Finally, Abraham Lincoln was not only our 16th president, but a soldier at heart. These three people, to me, are true patriots because they risked their lives for our country. Pat Tillman, my grandpa, and Abraham Lincoln all risked their lives for what they believed in. Pat Tillman was once an ordinary safety position player, soon turned into a soldier. My grandpa could have stayed home and watched his child grow up, but no, he wanted to fight for our safety. Abraham Lincoln knew when he signed up for election that people would judge him for what he believed in. He still became president and fought even harder for his beliefs. Have you ever thanked a veteran or soldier? What I want you to do when you leave here today is thank a veteran or soldier. Or if you see a veteran out at a restaurant, why don't you simply just pay for their meal? These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. This quote means that we need to thank our veterans and soldiers. Please think about what I have stated today. Thank you for your time.
D-Day, June 6, 1944. As the U.S. sent out thousands of soldiers to attempt to ambush the Germans, the weather on that exact day was forecasted to improve slightly. The weather was good, but the waves were coming at 6 foot high. We set the tanks afloat, hoping they would reach the shores of Omaha Beach. Well, the tanks weren't made to cooperate with 6-foot waves, so they sank. Out of the 27 people in one tank sent out, 24 drowned. Most of the tanks did not make it, and if they did, they were destroyed. The body count continued to rise as the Americans landed on the shoreline. Jasper Madelynne had inspired the Allies through illusion. He formed a group called A-Force, also known as the Magic Gang. They created fake armies and also made jeeps look like tanks and tanks look like trucks. Well, when the Nazis found the fake armies, they realized the Allies were going to come through Pas-de-Calais. That was when the Magic Gang had the idea to create another fake army, consisting of fake blow-up jets, cars, tanks, and even camp headquarters. The trickery works, and the Allies start to head off toward Omaha Beach. Little did they know, the Nazis' defensive general, Erwin Rommel, had realized what the Americans were doing because it all looked familiar to him. He realized that the beach looked identical to Salerno Beach and had predicted the Allies will do an ambush exactly like that one again. So he ordered more troops to construct concrete domes with powerful miniguns that shot 25 bullets a second. When the Allies got to shore, it seemed as if there were no chance of survival. All until one American changed the war around, Dwight D. Eisenhower. He was walking around the battlefield commanding troops to proceed on. He told the Allies that if they kept going, there might be a chance to reach the ammunition storage for the Germans. As they reached the stop point, Eisenhower told the remaining troops, "Boys, looks like we're going to be dying on the beach." They all bowed their head for their last chance to pray to God to get out alive, all while people are screaming for their mothers, fathers, and sisters. Eisenhower said that they had to keep moving, no more stalling. He took one last look at the 14 American soldiers before taking the lead to the last 2 machine guns. Shouting and screams of pain were heard all over the battlefield. Eisenhower and troops made it past the first machine gun with the remaining of 8 soldiers. They pushed through and made it through the second one with a whopping 6 soldiers. But when the Allies arrived at the ammo storage, they were only to be fooled by the Germans. I believe that Dwight D. Eisenhower to be the most patriotic because when America was at its lowest, he ran straight into the battlefield with only a cigar in his mouth and confidence in his troops. He believed that if they just kept pushing on, that they would win this war. He believed that if they worked as one, that the Germans would be defeated. Everyone should be like Mr. Eisenhower. He showed true patriotism by walking onto that battlefield. Because on D-Day, he showed his true stripes and honored the American flag by surviving that Cold War. To this day, nobody knows how many people died that day. I salute those past soldiers, and you all should too. In one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Patriot really about? I think it's about loving your country and feeling pride to say that you're from that country. I want to tell you about how you should be a patriot for your country. My name's Aron Mynatt, and I want you by the end of this speech to know why you should be a patriot. A great example of a true American patriot is Pat Tillman. I know he's used a lot, but I really needed to use him because he's a true American patriot. I know he was offered a lot of money, but he turned down that offer to go serve his country in Afghanistan and Iraq. He was a player for the Cardinals and a soldier. The tragedy of him dying to friendly fire is just upsetting. Only wished he could have made it back home safely and soundly. Moving on from him is the people who served our country and are serving our country right now. They're true American patriots. Young or old, they know what they're fighting for. It's their choice to serve their country. They knew what they were walking into, and they still decided, I'm gonna do this. This is for my country. I know what I'm doing. They show their honor, pride, and valor to be from America. an undefeatable country. We've been through thick and thin and still made it out okay. If you don't think they show any amount of patriotism, who does show patriotism? Pride for your country is something else. Showing that you love your country is one thing, but the pride to back up your country, that's a whole nother thing. Everyday people, they show pride for their country. Some of them don't even know it. Saying something as simple as the Pledge of Allegiance, part of your everyday school routine, that's just showing an ounce of patriotism. The preamble is the same thing. Even if you don't have to say it, some of us do, even just because we want to. It's saying that you devote yourself to your country, saying that you love your country, and that you are proud to be from your country. If that doesn't show even the slightest bit of patriotism, I'm not too sure what would. All the men and women in the Army know what they're fighting for. They know I could die any day, but they still think, all right, let's do this. Let's go fight for my country. Let's go show everyone else, hey, America, let's do this. The people in the Army, they could die, but they do that to ensure that you're safe, right where you're sitting, that you're safe. From patriotism to pride, now to honor. Honor doesn't mean that you have done something. Honor means that you will do something. It's not for yourself, it's for your country. Honor doesn't mean I'm going to think about what's in it for me, what's in it for myself, what's in it for just me. It's for what's in it for my country. You realize you have pride. Even if you don't show your patriotism to everyone, you have the pride to show it. You know you can show it. The small things you do every day can make you a patriot. Even saying just America is a good country, that could make you a patriot. Now imagine this. A world where you didn't have the patriots before you like Pat Tillman, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., all of them, that they didn't stand up for their country, stand up for what's right. If you didn't have them before you, we wouldn't have the freedoms that we have today. If we didn't stand up for what's right, could we have what's here today? You're always going to be safe with the Patriots. Thank you.
Courage, imagination, and unbeatable determination are vital characteristics at the heart of every true patriot. In 1945, the world was in ruins after World War II, having lost over 40 million lives in the longest war in history. Economies were shattered, and nations needed to rebuild. Americans had the essential attributes to make our nation stronger and better than ever before. In an effort to help Americans get back to work, Congress passed the Employment Act of 1946. Shortly after, on January 8, 1947, President Harry S. Truman addressed the Congress with his famous speech entitled "The President's First Economic Report." In this speech, he stated these famous words: "America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand." While President Truman was trying to adjust the Congress of our nation's need for a stable economy, I believe that these words ring true in every red-blooded American, no matter what challenges we may face. These words, to me, describe the United States of America. There are some key words in President Truman's phrase that stand out to me especially: courage, imagination, and unbeatable determination. Let us break these words down one by one through definition and example. Courage, the quality of mind and spirit that enables a person to face difficulties, danger, and pain without fear. Bravery. I think of a young soldier as he is headed onto the battlefield, not sure if he will survive the day, but with unwavering valor, he takes the next step. I think of the first responders to 9/11 as they felt the earth shake beneath them and saw the terror in the eyes of people running away from the rubble, while they themselves bravely ran toward the burning, crumbling buildings, risking their own lives. I think of the day that I came home and saw that my house had been broken into, and I was scared and felt vulnerable, but I saw the fearlessness in my father's eyes as he reassured me that I was safe and that everything would be okay. Imagination, the process of imagining or forming mental images or concepts of what is not actually present to the senses. I see the young soldier as he hears that the war is over and that he will soon be able to return home. Though he is not sure of what he will be returning home to, he is happy that he can be reunited with his family again. I see the firefighters as they raise the steel beam cross to help themselves and the world visualize hope and peace at a time that seemed hopeless and full of terror. I see myself 20 years from now, and I am taking my children to Washington, D.C. to see the war memorials and to New York to see 9/11's Ground Zero. And I tell them, we must never forget. Unbeatable, incapable of being beaten, determination, firmness of purpose, resoluteness. The soldier is at the door, his right sleeve empty from the bomb that blew away his arm, knowing that he is still whole because the devastations of war have left him stronger and more determined to rebuild his life and to keep the promises that he made to his fallen friends. The firefighter trembles as the Twin Towers come crashing down. And when the dust clears, he sees the brilliant red, white, and blue, the stars and the stripes, and as he hoists the colors high, he is proud to be an American. I stand resolute with my hand over my heart as I pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And I know that we are one nation under God, determined to stand for liberty and freedom no matter what the cost. As we go about our daily lives, let us remember to help one another, to serve one another, and to love one another. Let us remember the famous words spoken by Harry S. Truman. America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. That, to me, is what patriotism is all about. Thank you.
They were there on the battlefield of Gettysburg. They were there storming the beaches at Normandy. They have been in the jungles of Asia and the deserts of Africa. They patrol our mountains and valleys of Afghanistan. The American soldiers are the sentinels, the protectors of our freedom and our hope. What is it that drives them to put themselves in harm's way for us? At the end of his career, General Douglas MacArthur paid tribute to these great men who fight for our freedom. Speaking to an audience at West Point Academy, he described the character of a soldier, quote, "Duty, honor, country. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be," close quote. These attributes are not just found in soldiers, but they can be in everyday people like you and me. And if we can follow their examples, then we will achieve amazing things. The first word mentioned in MacArthur's quote is duty. Duty is your instinct to do what's right, even when the situation may seem to call for otherwise. An amazing example of one doing one's duty regardless of consequences is the story of Marcus Luttrell in SEAL Team 10. In 2005, Marcus and 3 others were assigned to a reconnaissance mission in Afghanistan to detain a high-ranking Taliban leader. The team crossed paths with a group of goat herders. They had to come to a decision whether to silence the innocent to keep them from alerting the Taliban or to let them go. They eventually decided not to punish men for something that they might do, and the goat herders were released. This was their duty. They knew how this might affect their mission, but they refused to give in to inhumanity. However, not long after, SEAL Team 10 was ambushed by Taliban forces in an intense firefight. All the SEALs were killed in the combat except Luttrell. He believes that the goat herders immediately contacted the Taliban following their release. With multiple gunshot wounds and a broken back, Marcus hiked over 7 miles, evading the men who still hunted him. He was found by a local tribesman named Gulab, who took Luttrell into his home for safety. Even when the Taliban found out where he was hidden, Gulab refused to hand him over. Instead, he rallied his neighbors and drove out the warlords. He then contacted the Americans, and Latrell was extracted to safety 6 days later. Gulab and his fellow villagers not only showed a great deal of kindness, but also demonstrated honor, MacArthur's second point. These people, who did not even know Latrell, showed him high-merited respect, the pure definition of honor. And in doing so, they all brought honor upon themselves. When you hear love of country, what do you think of? It is different for everybody, but for me, it is San Diego. Over winter break, I was able to visit this city and climb aboard the USS Midway. This grand World War II era battleship has been docked as a public museum in Seaport Village since 2004. But it is what was inside the boat that made me relate this to a great love of country. As I began to explore the floating relic, I was drawn to a sign. Speak to a World War II veteran today. The veteran, a man by the name of Robert Watson, had been stationed at Omaha Beach in Normandy, France as beachmaster. Robert had been a part of the D-Day invasion. He told us of the chaos and sacrifice that was made by the brave men who fought there in defense of our country. He believed so strongly in educating others in the true form of history and in teaching young people to have a love of country. He even went as far as to claim that he would teach my history teacher a lesson should he try and correct the true account. Robert has dedicated his life to his country in forms of military service and education. This is why I have come to associate Robert Watson, the USS Midway, and San Diego, California with MacArthur's quote, "I can only hope to grow a love so deep for this nation as Robert." To be the best patriot you can be, you don't have to go to war. Just follow these words, quote, "Duty, honor, country." Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be, close quote. I challenge you to share MacArthur's words with others. Live with duty and honor and country. If our nation is filled with people like Marcus Luttrell, Gulab, and Robert Watson, then we will become what we ought to be. We will become what we can be. And only then can we see what we will be. Thank you.
Close your eyes and imagine that you're in New York City, walking by the Twin Towers, and you see a plane heading right for one of the towers. What would you do? Would you just stand there and do nothing, or would you go and help rescue people? Good morning, judges, parents, and fellow competitors. My name is Kyle Brown, and I'm an 8th grader that attends Pioneer Elementary. We can all agree that from this day, that 9/11 is the most tragic terrorist attack. It is also a time where people all over the United States came to comfort and rescue people in need. At 8:46 a.m., an American Airlines plane crashed into the north side of the tower at 472 miles per hour. At 9:03 a.m., another American Airlines plane crashed into the south tower at 590 miles per hour. Someone told everyone at World Trade Center Building 7 that there was immediate evacuation, and whoever did this saved thousands of lives, because at 5:20 p.m., World Trade Center Building 7 collapsed. A man named Stanley was trapped on the 84th floor in the South Tower and was yelling for help. Brian heard him yelling and ran to the 84th floor. Brian and Stanley both got out safely. A few seconds later, the South Tower collapsed to the ground. We can all say that a lot of amazing people came to help those who survived and those who did not. At 9:39 a.m., American Airlines plane crashed into the Pentagon. It was descending at 7,000 feet at 345,000 miles. People on the 4th and 5th floor were able to evacuate successfully before the building collapsed completely. Police officers, firefighters, and civilians were able to pull people out of the wreckage. They found 189 people dead. Firefighters and civilians had to watch where they were walking when searching, for there were so many dead bodies. Again, amazing people from firefighters, civilians, police officers, military people, and more came together as one to help out in a devastating situation. The 4th hijacked plane crashed in the fields of rural Pennsylvania. It was heading to the White House, but never reached its destination. Passengers called friends and family members to find out that 3 other planes were hijacked that day. Passengers called friends, family members, relatives, and loved ones to tell them goodbye and how much they love them. If it wasn't for those heroic passengers, the plane crash could have been a lot worse. It's people like that we should never forget, who sacrificed their own lives for others. In conclusion, 9/11 taught us that we should never put off for tomorrow that we can do today. We shouldn't wait till we die to mend broken hearts or tell someone we are sorry. Every day we should pay it forward. We shouldn't need a terrorist attack to happen for us to do it. Let's never forget the people who survived, died, and came together to help out on 9/11. Americans showed the terrorists that day that no matter what happens, America will always stand united. Thank you.
In the words of John Lennon, imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I am a dreamer, but I am not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world can be as one. Hello, judges and fellow contestants. My name is Kory Wilson. These words by John Lennon embody everything Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has ever believed. While there are many definitions of patriotism, my idea of patriotism is believing in your Constitution and being proud of your country. But most of all, standing up for what you believe in. Now imagine a world with no equal rights, no Dr. King. Wouldn't that be a horrible world? What if we still had slavery and women couldn't vote? But thanks to the work of Dr. King, even though our world isn't perfect, we don't have to worry about those types of problems as much as we did 60 years ago. We have Dr. King to thank for creating this better type of world. One of the main reasons Dr. King is such a patriotic hero is that he used peaceful protest following the example of Gandhi. The reason that Dr. King is the most patriotic American is that he was the main leader of the civil rights movement. He used techniques such as marches, protests, and sit-ins. In addition to supporting peaceful protest, he used his words to persuade people to join his cause. Dr. King left an everlasting legacy on the 60s and beyond. His I Have a Dream speech hangs on the walls of classrooms across this country and is frequently quoted by modern speakers. Even today, anywhere you look, we honor him and what he did. We have streets named after him, statues, and even a national holiday in his honor. Dr. King was fighting for everyone to be able to live the American dream. But the reason Dr. King is the most patriotic American is that he did not only believe in the idea of the American dream, he believed that all Americans need to fight to guarantee that every single person has a chance to live the American dream, regardless of ethnicity, gender, religion, or personal beliefs. While we are still fighting today to achieve Dr. King's goal from his famous speech, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I believe that Dr. King would be so proud of how far America has come as a nation. But he would also remind us there is still a lot of work to be done. While Dr. King was a dreamer, we know he's not the only one. And as long as America has dreamers, we may one day achieve Dr. King's goal so that one day the world can be as one. Thank you.
For this is what America is all about. It is the uncrossed desert and the unclimbed ridge. It is the star that has not been reached and the harvest that is sleeping in the unplowed ground. Welcome judges, parents, and fellow contestants. My name is Madelynne Ingram, and this quote by Lyndon B. Johnson is all about the fact that Americans strive to do the impossible. We have accomplished amazing things, helped others, and looked toward our future, eager to take on the possibilities and impossibilities. Impossible: landing on the moon, flying high in the sky, jumping from space. All of these things were impossible, but this is why we have accomplished them. Thousands of scientists, rocket engineers, pilots, co-pilots, and many other people worked on the 1969 Apollo moon landing. It has been a legendary act since Neil Armstrong said his famous words and made a great leap for mankind. The Wright brothers also accomplished an amazing thing. In 1903, they created the first fixed-winged plane. This took knowledge and determination to prove a point to the world that flight was possible. At first, it was the only impossible thing, but that was until the Red Bull Company pulled off a stunt in 2012. Felix Baumgartner jumped from 24 miles in the air with nothing but a parachute and some courage. All of these things show that Americans can and strive to do the impossible. While doing the impossible, we may get carried away, but we more than make up for it with our generous hearts. Millions of Americans donate to thousands of different causes each year, one of these causes being the Shoebox Program. The Shoebox Program is all about giving the young African children Christmas presents. They can afford them, so we pack up shoeboxes with toys and send them over at Christmas time. But we don't just donate shoeboxes, we also donate hair. Madonna Kaufman started the company Locks of Love when she and her daughter developed a form of cancer called alopecia. When you develop alopecia, you lose all your hair. So she decided to collect hair from donators and turn it into wigs for all the boys and girls who have developed alopecia. As Americans, it is our duty to be as generous as we can be. We look towards our people and our future by creating and completing projects. One of these projects was the Biosphere Project. The Biosphere Project was all about colonization on other planets. The first biosphere is the one we live on. It has given us all the resources that we need to survive. We wanted to take that and put it into a smaller one so we could put it out in space. The first biosphere that we created, Biosphere 2, was tested by putting in 8 people for 4 years. They survived and had more than stories to tell. We had a plan. We created a Biosphere 3 that went underwater to pressure controls of the habitat. The biosphere was not the only way we look toward our future. As Americans, we are very patriotic in our way of taking up challenges, looking toward our future, and helping each other. America is still a very young country, and we will face many more problems. But will you step up and take one on? Thank you.
There have been numerous revolutions in the past 3 centuries, but none greater than the American Revolution itself. The average human being lives to be about 70 years old. That's more than 30 years than our ancestors had lived. Imagine being able to only live to about 35 years old and building this land that we're standing on right now. The men and women who built this land built it on courage, imagination, and a whole lot of determination. But that doesn't mean we can't do it as well, because we can. Harry S. Truman once said, "America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, imagination, and unbeatable determination to do the job at hand." Good morning, everyone. My name is Todd, Kajornkittipoom. Okay, now imagine It's 1775. You're walking down the street, you look to your right, and you see a riot. 3 seconds later, you hear a gunshot. You're trembling, you don't know what to do. You had just witnessed the spark of the greatest revolution in the world. The 38 men under the command of Captain Parker stood before 800 of our ancestors. Don't fire unless you're fired upon, Parker said. But if they want war, let it begin here. And indeed, it did begin there. A shot fired, but what came out of the gun was not a bullet, but a monster. People don't kill, monsters do. A quote from Reiner Lute. Sorrow is but the passing of fear. And when it does pass, courage will take its place. Courage, it means strength in the face of pain or grief. But let me tell all of you something. Everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish's ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. When I read this quote by Albert Einstein, I instantly thought, yo, Einstein, what you talking about? But then I thought about it for a while, but then I figured it out. A fish, the fish, used its imagination. If a mere fish can use imagination, we can too. Like on the evening of April 18th, 1775, Paul Revere engraved his name in the book of history with the pen of imagination. He rode from Boston to Lexington to warn everyone that the British are coming, the British are coming. More importantly, he saved the lives of Samuel Adams and John Hancock on that fateful night. Why? For he had no fear. For he knew that the power fear had taken from people will return to the people. And he was that messenger. So don't give yourselves into the brutes that have planted us with fear. Fear is not real. It is temporary. It may last a minute, it may last a day, it may even last a year, but it will disappear. So don't be afraid to rise up and do what you want. It's going to hurt to get up, but pain will subside. But if you quit, however, that will last forever. The determination to get up is in every single one of us. It's instinctive. The dictionary describes it as the act of making or arriving at a decision. It's the size of your resolve. So, with enough determination, there is no fear, for fear is grime. It comes off when you wipe it off. And what you will find when you wipe it off is courage, imagination, and a whole lot of determination. And with that, you will have a dream. I don't know what that dream is, the future of America, but I do know one thing, that it's possible. Anything is possible as long as we work for it. But most people don't work for it. Why? Because of fear. They're scared of failing. They're scared of falling. I'm here to tell you, there is no need to fear. With enough courage and imagination and determination, the light, there is no shadow, no fear. America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, imagination, and unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. And with that, there are two kinds of people in this country. People who sit and wait for an opportunity to come to them, and then there are people who go out there and do something. So before I go, let me ask you, who are you? Thank you.
Picture this. You're sitting in the space shuttle. You're the one the whole world is looking at. You're the one everybody is talking about. Suddenly, you hear 5, 4, 3, 2. And then, when everybody shouts 1, Lyndon B. Johnson's quote races through your head. For this is what America is all about. It is the uncrossed desert and the unclimbed ridge. It is the star that is not reached and the harvest that is sleeping in the unplowed ground. This accomplishment and many more are what America is all about. Accomplishments like fighting for freedom, putting a man on the moon, and my very own achievements. What do you think of when you hear the word freedom? I think of accomplishment. Here, let me explain. Without our accomplishments in America, we wouldn't be free, something our generation couldn't even think of being without. One accomplishment that resulted in women's freedom to vote was the women's suffrage. Now, you're probably thinking this has nothing to do with you, but think of it this way. Imagine not being able to listen to what music you enjoy while your friends could listen to whatever they liked. Unfair? I thought so. Since the 19th Amendment was passed on August 26, 1920, women are able to do some of the same things as men. Another time where fighting for freedom was shown was the Underground Railroad. Who contributed to this? Harriet Tubman, as a matter of fact. You've probably heard your social studies teacher talk about this, but didn't pay much attention. And now for all you adults out there, it's probably been a while, so let me refresh your minds a little bit. The Underground Railroad wasn't a real railroad, just different locations that fugitive slaves could stay at and be free. In addition to some accomplishments of fighting for freedom, putting a man on the moon was sure a huge deal for America. The man on the moon. Does that statement ring a bell? This accomplishment has put the U.S. on the map as the land of opportunity. This event was risky, I'm not gonna lie. The shuttle could have failed to launch into space, disappointing everyone watching. But it didn't. Do you wanna know why? Because every person that spent countless hours building, fixing, checking, and double-checking that shuttle made it possible for a man to even step foot on the moon. Now sure, the man on the moon was a huge deal for America, but so was the creation of the shuttle. Without the help of those unknown Americans, who knows, maybe America wouldn't be the first to put a man on the moon. Also, this spectacular accomplishment gave our nation hope. Hope that there is so much to be done and be accomplished. It's just like Lyndon B. Johnson said, for this is what America is all about. It is the uncrossed desert and the unclimbed ridge. It is the star that is not reached and the harvest that is sleeping in the unplowed ground. He basically said that there is hope. There is so much to be done and so much not yet discovered. Having mankind step on the moon showed people that anything is possible. Along with putting a man on the moon, my very own accomplishments show how awesome America truly is. Some of my personal triumphs wouldn't be possible if I didn't live in America. My parents give me the opportunities to do whatever I like, whether it be sports or music. I enjoy playing volleyball, specifically club volleyball, and they let me pursue it. Since I've been in club volleyball, my skills have escalated a ton in the past year. Now, put yourself in the shoes of a poor kid living in Peru. Your parents can't afford to put you in school, so you have no education. With your parents gone from sunrise to sunset, barely making $1 a day, there is no way they could teach you some of the stuff they learned in school. We take so much for granted, such as education, even me. One of my major accomplishments in life is receiving good grades in school. Because of where I live, I have the opportunities to have an education and make the most of it. All in all, America has so much that has and will be accomplished. Our accomplishments are what America is all about. Accomplishments like fighting for freedom, putting a man on the moon, and my very own achievements. It's truly inspiring what Lyndon B. Johnson said. For this is what America is all about. It is the uncrossed desert and the unclimbed ridge. It is the star that is not reached and the harvest that is sleeping in the unplowed ground. Let me take you back to the beginning of my speech, on the shuttle. As it seems like only moments later, you get the okay to get out. When one foot touches the unfamiliar ground, everything you had worried about before melts away. As you stick the beloved American flag into the ground of the moon, you realized you just accomplished something others only dreamed of. You just made history.
I want you to ask yourselves, what was America built on? Was it built on courage, or was it built on fear? Hello, my name is Jerry McDaniel. And as Harry S. Truman once said, America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. I believe this quote means that Americans were willing to fight for their country, and no matter what they thought about the consequences they would face. No Americans, didn't matter what the consequences were. Americans had a determination to finish the war without even worrying about death. These Americans proved why they were true American heroes, and proved why they are the most patriotic in American society. These heroes knew the consequences they would face, but were willing to pay the price for their country. An example of an American hero was Patrick Tillman. In 2002, Pat Tillman gave up his very successful NFL football career to join the U.S. Army. After being deployed to Afghanistan, he was later killed in 2004 in a friendly fire. I'm sure Pat knew that death could occur, but when he enrolled in the Army, he didn't even think about this. For the love of the country, he sacrificed himself. For this act, Patriotic proved why he was an American hero in American society. John F. Kennedy once said, "The price for freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission." Millions of Americans sacrificed themselves for our country. In 2003, 1,410,331 people died. In 2004, 1,877,900 people died. Over 3 million people died in just 2 years. And for the love of their country, they did that for us and for all of us sitting here today. For that, all them dying for us, that touches my heart, and I hope it touches yours too. Those people died for me and for all of you. They sacrificed themselves and for all of us in this wonderful country. Without all of our great soldiers from the First War to now, where would America stand? America would most likely not be united and not the land of the free. Without courage and patriotism, America could have given up and never fought for our land. A great example of true patriots could be the Windtalkers of World War II. The United States needed help with the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. Japanese soldiers were intercepting and decoding the U.S. secret messages. The United States needed a new code. Philip Johnston gave the idea of the Navajo language as a secret code. Johnston knew something about the language because he grew up on or near the reservation. Johnston was one of 30 non-Navajo language speakers. He mastered the unwritten, extremely difficult language. After writing a letter outlining his thoughts, Johnston made a decision that would change the lives of 29 Navajo men. Within months, those men created a code that was never broken during the war. The code remained a national secret until 1968. The Navajo code talkers weren't just secret language holders, they were also true soldiers who fought for our country's freedoms. They held a big role in what our country is now. Without the Navajo code talkers, Americans most likely would not have won the World War II without the language. Because of them, our country is united and gives the citizens freedom. America had laws and amendments that separates what we can do and what we can't. Those things were called equal rights. We as Americans have freedom of religion, speech, and press. Freedom of speech, meaning you have the right to believe what you want, or freedom of religion, having the right to believe what you want. Freedom of speech, meaning to be able to express your thoughts in your words, and religion, and press, meaning to be able to express your thoughts and beliefs in articles, magazines, and newspapers. America as a country is great too. America has beautiful national monuments and a fair president that we have as Americans get to choose. Our country stays united through tough times. Picture this, 9/11, right after the World Trade Centers were hit by the planes and collapsed. This was a horrific incident that affected Americans all across our country. Through this horrific incident, America stood together and pushed through it. Firefighters, police officers, and paramedics filled Manhattan. They risked their lives just to help others. Hundreds of firefighters and police officers died in 9/11. Soldiers aren't the only ones who risk their lives for others. Firefighters and police officers risk their lives every day just for the safety of us American citizens. As Americans, we face so many emotions, from sadness to frustration, anger to grief, and so forth. Through all the hard times America faces, our country stays united. The flag is flown high and proud because no matter how many times our country is challenged, we will never forget what principles our founding fathers built this country on. They are who made what our country is today. Our nation will continue to preserve and protect, continue to be one nation under God. Now, before you think our country is complicated or bad, remember exactly how many lives were taken and the sacrifices it took to become our nation today. Thank you.
Parents, judges, fellow students, I come to you today with a quote and a message of what it means to be patriotic and what it means to be proud. 3 characteristics that guide us to patriotism, what makes patriotism. an incredible man, General Douglas MacArthur, showed the 3 guidelines to patriotism to us: duty, honor, country. Those 3 hollowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. What makes this quote so memorable and patriotic is hidden behind those 3 words: duty, honor, and country. There's so much more than just a definition from a dictionary. You can't just look at the words on the internet and say, I don't need to listen to this speech, I know what those mean. Well, excuse me. There's so much more, and you're about to find out. The first way of getting to patriotism is duty. If you're an American citizen, that doesn't mean that you get to be a lazy lump. You have responsibilities, not just getting to be a citizen. It could just be doing your chores or helping one another. A great example of citizenship is our Army. They risk their lives because they have the bravery and are willing to protect ours and their country. They know that it's their job and their duty to do what's right. What duty is responsibility, not just in the world, but even in your own home. The next guideline to patriotism is honor. America is a free country where you choose where to go and be. Do you have the same amount of freedom in other countries? Think for a minute of all the things you have: your home, your friends, your PS4. Would you still have all that if you lived in a different country? Don't take for granted even the most simplest things. You live in America, one of the freest countries in the world. There are so many ways that you can respect it. Every morning you could say the Pledge of Allegiance. You could vote. You can volunteer to the Army or Red Cross. That just shows how much you honor what you have, and it shows how thankful you are of America. The last and most important act of patriotism is country. Like I said before, you should be thankful for what you have, which is America. Like respect, you should also love America. Think about it. You love your family, your friends, your home. You have opportunities to be whatever. And whatever you choose to do in life, won't you enjoy it? And just think of all the freedoms we have. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of equal justice, freedom to bear arms. And get this, there's so much more. Don't you love the freedoms we have? So listen to what I'm saying. Love your country, and don't forget to love everything in it, too. All in all, MacArthur's quote shows to us what patriotism is all about: taking responsibility, being thankful for what you have, and loving your country. I feel that influential quotes from American leaders can inspire and motivate today's youth, allowing us to learn from the past to appreciate our country and to make proper choices to advance our country and our families. Also teaching us to come together as one, not just in times of tragedy, but during good times as well. Thank you for listening to my speech. And remember, together we are strong as a country, as America. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you for coming this morning. At one point in time, you may have thought to yourself, why is America the best? Even though there's no factual way to support that we are the best, we all have our own ideas. But that's not the question we should be asking. Why should we be patriotic? America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. This quote by Harry S. Truman can be broken down to find our answer. A person I believe that showed bravery was Adam Brown, a 12-year Navy SEAL that was killed in action. During an attack, Brown ran in front of shooters so that his team could escape. He sacrificed his life to protect the lives of his squad. I am proud to say there are men like that fighting every day to protect our freedom. And even though she wasn't from America, Malala Yousafzai also showed bravery. In Pakistan,
where Malala had lived, a ban was set on girls' education. Malala stood up and said she was going to get an education, no matter what bans were put into place. She knew that by protesting, she could be killed, but she spoke her mind anyways. The Taliban responded to Malala by shooting her in the head on her way home from school. She survived the bullet, and I'm thankful to say this situation would never happen in America. Although it's important to be brave, it is equally significant to have an imagination. With that imagination, we wouldn't have things like Facebook, the light bulb, cars, or even the iPhone. Steve Jobs plays an important role in many of our lives, and his inventions allow us to connect to the world around us, and they give us the tools to be imaginative ourselves. Another imaginative creator is Calvin Doe. Calvin grew up in a small village in Africa, and when he was 11, he began collecting metal scraps out of the trash. Years later, he was able to create a radio station for his village using the collection. When MIT heard his story, they invited him to America to help him work on his inventions. We were able to learn from him and share our resources with him so that he could go back and make his country a better place. Another section of Truman's quote has to do with dedication. In 1986, Americans sat at their televisions ready to watch one of the most memorable events in Olympic history. Carrie Strug, a gymnast, completed a vault on a severely injured ankle. Carrie knew how painful it would be to land on the injured foot, but she stepped up and completed the vault because she knew what it took to win. She risked her welfare for herself, her team, and her country, and her determination to do the job at hand got her a gold medal and won respect for the United States. Carrie's dedication reminds me of one of my local heroes, Centennial High School student Drew Schmidt. Drew is sophomore class president and on the JV football team, but he also has an obstacle in his way. Drew suffers from cerebral palsy, but that doesn't hold him back on the football field. In an interview, Drew said that he played every game like it was his last. Drew's determination to play football inspires me, like Carrie Strug did, to so many other people. Truman's quote contains each characteristic of a patriot: to have bravery, like Adam Brown and Malala Yousafzai, to be imaginative, like Steve Jobs and Calvin Doe, and to be determined, like Carrie Strug and Drew Schmidt. When we all work to have these characteristics is when we start to make America an even better place, maybe even the best. Thank you.
June 12th, 1987. A man stood humbled in the presence of a wall. Yes, a wall. A wall that in the crevices of its weathered bricks were the dreams of democracy for millions of Germans. But a determined man, Ronald Reagan, like the military and Martin Luther King Jr. before him, was going to tear down this wall. Speaking through inches of bulletproof glass, President Reagan demanded Soviet Union leader Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down the wall for democracy. This massive 140-kilometer wall, that's 86 miles. Think about it. 86 miles could have separated you from democracy. 86 miles could have separated you from a better life. But although Reagan was addressing a physical wall, his words will forever linger in the minds of Americans, to stand up for what we believe in, to tear down the walls for what is right. But tearing down walls doesn't just stop at that. Martin Luther King Jr., an accomplished man, tore down the wall to equality. He wanted his fellow 15,200,000 African Americans to be able to say one thing, that they were proud to be American. But after conquering the media, dogs, and prison, he had finally tore down the wall to victory. But it was his hard work and determination that won his tireless fight. And just like Ronald Reagan, he did it in the name of his country. As if to support our 40th president, the U.S. Armed Forces, our military, tear down walls every day. Our servicemen and women do the unthinkable. They leave their families when they are called upon. They run into that mob with gunfire. They give their lives at the drop of a pin. But why? Because they believe in what they are fighting for. In America, that the walls they tear down in the name of their country will fuel the fire to accomplish justice time and time again until they have prevailed. And if that isn't inspirational, what 4 measly words can achieve, then who are we to call ourselves Americans? Americans are faced with obstacles every day. We struggle and fight, sometimes only to reach defeat. But as unpatriotic as the tarnished clothes, sweat, and blistered hands may appear, that is hard work. That is what feeds our desire to conquer. And that is why Ronald Reagan's tear down this wall is so patriotic. Because just like Martin Luther King Jr., Ronald Reagan, and the military, America was built off of hard work. Our freedom did not come without a price. Millions died, drowning in the pools of their own blood, shrieking for equality while being ripped limb from limb by a beast we call justice. It is for those lost souls that we must fight, the ones that gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left for them to give. That is why every wall must crumble. That is why we are America.
America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. This quote by President Harry S. Truman was said on January 8, 1947, at a time when America was prosperous, but many feared another depression because of recent history. Fast forward 67 years to today, when unemployment rates are high and sadly, American children go to bed hungry. If we doubt ourselves, we need to remember Truman's words. When America faced hard times, history proves our country rose up and kept fighting. Our American spirit has never allowed us to give up, and we won't. America was certainly built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. Courage lives in all of us. It is part of the American spirit. Many years ago, our founding fathers had the courage to go against their king and make a new country based on freedom. We won this fight thanks to the courageous and determined Revolutionary War soldiers. This fighting spirit was passed on from generation to generation, straight to today's military, who prove their courage each and every day. Like Robert Denevsky, a young soldier from right here in Peoria. He sacrificed his life to help save 4 of his comrades in an Afghan firefight. On 9/11, all first responders showed undeniable courage in the face of tragedy. With their help, when others thought we failed, we rose up from the ashes. Now in the place of the Twin Towers, there's a Freedom Tower and a monument to honor the fallen in the horrible terrorist attack, proving America cannot be kept down. We just had the year anniversary of the school shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. A teacher named Victoria Soto tragically lost her life, but heroically kept all her students safe when she hid them from the cowardly gunmen. The courage shown by people like her is what built America. With the help of imagination, she became a powerful nation. Imagination has no age. Said by Walt Disney, the most imaginative person in the world. America's history is full of patriots of all ages who used their imagination to create an amazing nation. It took a lot of imagination to think of a new country where the people are in charge. Our founding fathers did it, though. They did such a great job that people all over the world still dream of living here. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. also had a dream. And look where his dream brought us, to equal rights for all American citizens. That takes imagination, and so does space travel. America is the only country who has had astronauts walk on the moon, 12 of them. Maybe someday someone in this room may discover a way to live on Mars. It could be me, it could be anyone. That's because the freedom of thought, speech, and even imagination is guaranteed by our great Constitution. It is clear to me that America has put the nation in imagination, but also in determination. Without determination, America wouldn't have won wars nor survived the Great Depression. But we did because of our will to survive. George Washington didn't give up after losing 6 major battles, but kept fighting to win the 3 that gave us the victory in the Revolutionary War. Abraham Lincoln was determined to keep us united, and working together, America became stronger. That's because Americans have always done what it takes to get the job done. Firefighters bravely stop fires. Police officers put their lives on the line to keep our streets safe. Teachers teach and doctors save lives. So many people have the determination to succeed. For example, Walt Disney went from no one hiring him to an amazing cartoonist who touches lives all over the world. Dr. Ben Carson, raised by his mother in the poorest part of Detroit, worked hard to become a highly skilled surgeon who performed the first successful separation of Siamese twins joined at the back of the head. They lived the American dream, just like Karen Jeffers, who worked at McDonald's in high school to help pay her family's bills. She is now the board president of Ronald McDonald Charities in Illinois. Millions of Americans set their mind on something and through determination make it happen. America was built by everyday people getting the job done and helping us grow stronger as a nation. This American work ethic is still alive today. America is not perfect, and these are hard times for many of us. But there is still no other place on earth I'd rather live. We, the people, have learned to push on and not let fear get in our way. This incredible nation and the people in it make sure we don't fail. I firmly believe that in 2014, we still have the courage, the imagination, and the unbeatable determination to persevere. And that is what makes America the greatest nation on earth. Thank you.
Greetings, judges, fellow contestants, parents, and guests. My name is Lana Mohammed, and I'm here today to apprise you of a problem many of us are guilty of. Every day, we forget to appreciate the freedom that we are given by this country. More importantly, it's the people that lost their lives for the sake of every American's freedom. Our freedom can be represented by a very important piece of paper that has the Bill of Rights inscribed on it. The Bill of Rights consists of the first 10 amendments in the United States Constitution, which enumerates basic freedoms granted to people living in the United States. A judicious man named Felix Frankfurter once said, "We have enjoyed so much freedom for so long that we are perhaps in danger of forgetting how much blood it cost to establish the Bill of Rights." We are in danger of forgetting that these rights weren't something that was easily instituted in this country. Many people lost their lives trying to establish these rights. We have lost ourselves. With all this freedom, we forget to be thankful for all the pain and suffering our country has gone through for us. Think for a moment. How often do you pause to appreciate our freedom of religion, speech, and opinion? How would life be without the Bill of Rights? To start, our rights wouldn't be protected. That means for anyone who enjoys having a weapon for safety or hunting wouldn't be allowed to possess one. What about our Fourth Amendment? I'm sure many of us wouldn't want to be searched without a warrant or a probable cause. That would be a major violation of our privacy. You see how the Bill of Rights are tremendously important in our everyday lives? The reason why we should remember how much blood it cost to establish the Bill of Rights is not primarily for the sake of giving sympathy to the men that died. It is to truly understand and appreciate that rights don't come easy. Just because we've had them since we were born doesn't mean they aren't important. The Bill of Rights, encompassing the Constitution, isn't the only blood-costing moment in history. Try to imagine 620,000 people. That is 4 times the amount of people that live in the city of Peoria. Well, that is the number of people that died in the Civil War. Although these people didn't create the Constitution, they had some of the same ambitions as the signers of the Constitution. Both groups wanted to establish freedom for the sake of the American people. It was a major decision to make for James Madison to author the Bill of Rights. It was a major decision for anyone to put their name on that piece of paper. Less than 300 years ago, America had made the decision to either make this country the best or the worst. And the fact that we weren't afraid to take that risk makes our accomplishments so outstanding and unforgettable. Taking the time to remember and appreciate all the pain and suffering many people in our history had endured helps we, as humans, know that such great things come with great obstacles. It is unfortunate to see how we take our freedom for granted and only value it when on a specific holiday. It is more damaging to our human race to see past our hardships and forget all the effort required for people like the signers of the Constitution to fight for our freedom and any generation following ours. As Felix Frankfurter once said, we have enjoyed so much freedom for so long that we are perhaps in danger of forgetting how much blood it cost to establish the Bill of Rights. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I urge you to take a minute every day and wonder how you would have lived your life without your personal liberties. And keep in mind that our freedom wasn't cheap nor easy to establish in this country. Thank you for your time.
Greetings, fellow citizens of this immense and prosperous nation. Today, we will bear witness to not a victory of independent school, but to a representation of district composed of all of our schools, united. We gather here today, not necessarily in the means of competition, but in the means of celebrating and expressing freedom. And with these words, it is my proud honor to be here before you today. And today, my fellow citizens, today, I stand before you to bring forth an essential message crafted by a mind pertaining to a U.S. president by the name of Harry S. Truman. This message is, America was not built on fear. America was built on courage, on imagination, and an unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. This message was originally administered in one of America's darkest hours, a time in which America was in fear for another economic depression. Mr. Truman's words fled into a beacon of hope for the citizens of this nation, and this was a hope that cannot be expelled because we, as America, do contain an unbeatable determination, and we were founded on courage, and this nation and this government was only originally crafted from an imagined concept, a concept pertaining to the idea of a perfectly formed union. So to preserve, protect, and defend this nation of freedom and liberty, we must first come to realize, as a united nation, our determination to do so. And yes, some may ask, what exactly provides us with this unbeatable determination? The answer to this happens to be quite short, and it's quite simple. However, it contains a meaning valued above any other meaning, message, or moral America has ever come to know. It is a meaning that generations of Americans have come to defend, and generations of Americans will continue to defend. It is a meaning that hundreds of thousands of Americans have laid down their lives for. What is this message? What is this word? What is this cause? Freedom. And as America, it is our utmost obligation to ensure the success and survival of freedom and liberty. Even one of our prime founding fathers, Patrick Henry, once stated, "Give me liberty or give me death." Now this is the unbeatable determination I speak of. We were the first to put the man on the moon. We were originally the victors of World War II, and we had defeated a nation that had conquered nearly the entire continent of Europe. We are America, and we are proud. 16,000 Americans died every island we had to take from the Japanese in World War II. And America, the challenges will continue to come, and we will continue to do the job at hand. Now, don't you dare tell me that this was neither unbeatable determination or courage, because it most certainly was. America has truly come to prove itself. It has exceeded what was expected of it so long ago. And as long as we remain united, America, we can live up to Mr. Truman's words to their fullest extent and even further. So allow me to ask you all this. If you are unwilling to provide your nation with courage, innovative imagination, or an unbeatable determination, then what exactly makes you believe that the people, the contributing people of this nation, will be willing to provide you with these things? I thank you all for being here with me today. It means a lot to myself as well as many others. Thank you for your time, and farewell.